The part of us, I say, when we change what home feels like, we
Mm,
change our relationship patterns. Once I really understood that home was supposed to feel calm, the men that I met that didn't allow me to feel calm, I didn't want to be around them. Where before I would have wanted to show them how love was. I would have wanted to help fix them and prove to them and all of those things. But I had to change that core belief and that feeling that I had inside about what love was.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Pulling Threads. I'm Leslie, and today we're pulling a thread that so many people carry quietly, especially our high functioning, capable women who look like they have it all together on the outside, but may feel anxious, confused, or exhausted in their relationships. Today's conversation is about why love can feel really intense and painful, even when we know something isn't right, and why leaving unhealthy dynamics can feel harder than staying. And we're going to talk a little bit about probably trauma bonding, red flags, and subtle ways that we learn to confuse intensity with intimacy. My guest today is Stephanie McPhail. Stephanie spent nearly 2 decades in a toxic relationship, and now she helps women untangle subconscious patterns around codependency, trauma bonding, and self worth using neuroscience based and trauma informed approaches with her husband. So, this conversation is really for anyone who has ever questioned their judgment in relationships. I'll raise my hand. Wondered if healthy love was possible for them, or have felt stuck between what they know and what they feel. So, welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad for this conversation because I think as we were talking before, I think this is the right time for us to really be vocal about all these feelings, these heavy feelings that people are having. And, when you're dealing with toxic relationship dynamics, it just, everything feels even more overwhelming than usual.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would love it if you would just give us a little bit of your background and kind of how you got here and what the work that you're doing, what got you on that journey.
So, yeah, so I used to be really good at choosing really shitty partners and then trying to make it work. And, when you're really successful in the other parts of your life, but not so successful in relationships, it starts to feel like maybe that's not possible for me. Maybe I'm just not meant to have a healthy relationship, or maybe there's just something wrong with me. And I
Yeah.
remember wanting to get married. I always wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted all of that. And I got to a point in my life where I felt like, you know what? I've never really felt like I found the right fit for me. Maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe I want too much. And I met someone, it was really the right time. And he checked off some of the boxes. I saw the potential. And I said, okay, let's get married when he asked me to get married. And I saw red flags and we can talk about that, but I saw those red flags, but he came in
Yeah.
at that right moment. And I said, yes, we got married at a beautiful castle, Ohika Castle in New York, like fairy tale. And he tried to kill me on our wedding night.
Wow.
And I stayed because I was embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to know that I had chosen a man that was, so toxic. And I tried everything to make that relationship work for years until finally I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live the rest of my life this way. And so when I first ended it, I thought, like a lot of people, they think I'm done. I don't ever have to deal with that person ever again. But when I started to really go through some of the unraveling, I started to realize this wasn't my first toxic relationship. This was one of many. And I don't ever want to do this again. I don't want to be in this kind of situation again later on in life. And so I got to a point where I really focused on me. I focused on healing. I focused on doing the work. And I said, you know what? If I never find a relationship again, I will actually finally be okay with it. And I grieved, maybe I'll be single forever. And I had to just start to be okay with that. And then because of that work and because of that, I started to make changes in my life that I never would have thought were possible. I ended up marrying my husband. We have 2 beautiful children. And I said, I have to share this with other people because if I was so low down, again, someone who's successful everywhere else, and I was so low down feeling like it wasn't possible, there's other people out there like me feeling exactly like this. And so for the past 12 years now, I've been helping women really, heal and rebuild and sometimes break free from those toxic patterns that are keeping them stuck.
Wow. Like, I have so many questions, of course, but what a powerful story and a beautiful way to help others. Because, I mean, we talked a little bit, but like hope or hopelessness is such a big factor in why people stay, why they don't try again. So, I'm really excited for us to talk about all of these things. But first, I wanted to kind of look back. If you could look back now, like what were the earliest things, the earliest threads, like beliefs, conditioning, relational patterns that made those relationships feel, did they feel familiar?
And so that's a big thing that I talk about a lot. My book, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. I talk about, there's a chapter in there that I talk about being out with friends and suddenly realizing for the first time that the calmness I felt around them and their love was what love was supposed to feel like. And I was 37 years old. And it was the first time where I was like, oh, love is calmness. Like it was life changing to have that realization. And I think for so many of us, if you are brought up in a dynamic that love feels like something you have to fight for, it feels uncomfortable, it causes anxiety, it's stressful. That's what we get used to love being. So without meaning to, subconsciously, we go and search out those types of relationships. So when we find those things, we might like psychologically say, I don't like this. Mentally, we're like, this isn't comfortable, but we're so used to it that our nervous system pushes in, it leans more into those relationships. And so we keep ending up in these cycles until we change the part of us. I say, when we change what home feels like, we
Mm,
change our relationship patterns. Once I really understood that home was supposed to feel calm, the men that I met that didn't allow me to feel calm, I didn't want to be around them. Where before I would have wanted to show them how love was. I would have wanted to help fix them and prove to them and all of those things. But I had to change that core belief and that feeling that I had inside about what love was.
I love what you said about home. Like, you're a highly educated and psychologically informed woman. And I'm sure you always have been, right? And I find that most of the women that end up working with are as well. So for you, like how did the gap between knowing something wasn't healthy and still staying show up for you? Because it's so common among very high achieving, successful women. How is that possible?
There's a few things. One, I always say we're kind of like pit bulls. So when we
Mm.
find something, we want to get it right. We want to figure out the solution to the problem. So we hold on when we really should let go because we're not give up people. We're find the solution people. And so we feel like that's kind of what it is in this types of toxic relationship dynamics. But I'll say also is there's this unbelievable masking of what we do. And I remember getting awards at work and moving up my career ladder and going home and crying in a corner because of how bad things were at home. Like I literally would go to my crying place because I was so embarrassed. And I remember actually, and I was really good at living these two lives. Work was my safe space. That's where I went, where I got the kudos, I got the success. I felt really good in what I was doing. And then I would go home and that felt terrible. And so you just get used to living these two different lives. And at some point, for some of us, it starts to bleed into each other. And I remember
Yeah.
one time somebody said to me, they're like, you are the person that I go to for everything. You can't be the one going through something like this. And
Wow.
I was like, but it made me think, but it also made me embarrassed and it made me feel all these different emotions because I was like, wait a minute, first of all, he sees behind the mask. Uh-oh. What if people realize that I'm not the successful person who has it together and I'm the go-to to ask all the questions and everything else? What if they see who that person really is? That was really scary. But then it was also, but he thinks this highly of me. What am I if I'm not that person? And so that's another like layer where we're trying to hold up this vision of ourselves that we've created in order to make people love us and to feel seen and to feel successful and all of that. But the reality is not getting help and trying to figure that out on our own is to our detriment. And that's one of the hardest things I think that helping people heal after toxic relationships is the easier part. The part that's hard is getting people to understand that you should get help and that it is possible to live something different. We get so used to living in this survival mode, again, these two different lives, that we avoid the problems. I was really good at compartmentalizing. And then I'm going to deal with this at home. I'm going to deal with this at work. And then, for a lot of people, they start getting health issues. I mean, the gamut of issues that start coming up, even when you're not actually seeing it, it does show up in other
Right.
ways. So it's really hurting us when when we continue to keep trying to figure it out on our own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of denial, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of embarrassment. Anytime you make a commitment to someone, I mean, a wedding, like you said, it was a castle in New York. Like it's a big display. And it's really hard to back out of that, especially if you have to back out quickly because you realize that the person you just married is not, in fact, who you thought they were. But then there also is a lot of confusion, I think. You talk a lot about confusing intensity with intimacy. And I want you to describe like what that confusion feels like from the inside, because I think unless you've experienced that, it's really hard to imagine it. But I also think that a lot of people do experience it and they don't realize it. So what does that feel like? And then we'll go on and talk a little bit about how trauma bonding can kind of masquerade.
Or I think the saying is the shame and guilt. And I
Mhm.
think, shame and guilt will come out in all sorts of different ways. But we live in this place of shame and guilt. Like, I didn't do enough. I could do more. I don't want anyone to know that I chose this person. People would ask me, after they found out, well, why didn't you get an annulment as soon as the wedding was over? Like it was that night. You could have done something. Yeah, but it was my minister that I had known since I was like 10 years old that had married us. My mom's family is from France. They had come all the way. I didn't want to let anybody down. And so
Right.
there's that feeling of letting people down. They spent all this money and I feelings a month before that we shouldn't get married. He did some really terrible things. But everyone said that, people get really stressed out when they're planning a wedding. And so everything, I give myself a reason for all of the things because I was scared. And again, because I thought, well, maybe I just can't find someone healthy. Maybe this is really the best I can get. Maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe I am the problem. And that was really subconscious.
Yes.
Maybe really I am the problem. And that's why these things keep happening to me. Now, I'm going to say there are things we can do in order to change, but it's not that we are the problem. There are things we can do to choose differently later on. So confusion, overwhelm, shame, guilt, embarrassment. Who am I really? What would I be without this? The status of, being married versus being single. And at a certain age where you think you have all these ideas of where you're going to be in your life. So then all those things get stuck. And it really is just this, it's such a time where you're so confused because a lot of us also, I got married to stay married and through sickness and in health. And I'm a person of my word. So
Yeah.
therefore, I have to figure it out. And then what's wrong with me that I'm going to let this person down when they need me? I'm going to let them down. Why am I making myself the priority when they need me and they need me to take care of them? And again, those are all of those things. And I think that it's a combination of our upbringing, what we dealt with growing up with our parents, how did they get along? It's also, I grew up in a Christian household where you had to follow and, be a certain way and act a certain way. And therefore, I had to follow that as well. And so, I think it's really trying to find our own way as
Yeah.
opposed to doing what we think everybody else wants us to do. And that can feel really hard, especially when you're successful because you're used to, again, figuring it out and getting kudos for doing the good things. And here you are, this is not good things. You know that this is something that it's like we're holding on to that mistake for so long where it's making the mistake last longer, where if we let go, it would be rough, but we could let go and move on from it. But we keep holding on, hoping that that something's gonna change and be different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you touched on it a little bit earlier. I think that many of us think that because we have been successful in all these other areas, we can change the person. And when people talk about people with high levels of narcissism and things like that, that people are kind of looking for somebody who has the energy that they don't have. And so they're looking for it. So we're attractive or strong women are attractive to someone who has a fragile ego, which is usually tied to high narcissism. So in a way we are attracting it. Our energy is attracting something that they maybe need from us. And there is a part of us that think, oh, well, I'm successful in all these other areas. I can help this person.
Yes.
I can change them.
And we might not
But
think we're saying change them, but like I can help them also
I
is
can
I
help
can change
them.
them.
Yes, help, change, make their life better. I've already fallen in love with the person I thought that they were.
Mhm.
So I want to make this work like I make everything else work.
Well,
But
and we're super
then,
loyal, and that's another
yeah,
thing I see that across the board. We are these super loyal people. So like, and again, we're one of our words. So we
yep,
say it, we're gonna follow through, and we're super loyal. So and that's why I call us the pit bulls, because it's like there's this letting go that we're forgetting we can do that, but we're so loyal. I'm already in
yep,
this relationship. I might as well make it work when we don't have to. At some point, we can walk away because the narcissist really is attracted to, they want arm candy,
hmm,
and so they want arm
yep,
candy. So they want the professional, successful woman, but then they feel insecure around them. So instead of them trying to work up to make themselves better, they try to tear us down to make us
yes,
worse. So they put us up on a pedestal, but then they're mad at us for being there because we also can't be perfect because we're human. And so there's all these different, these different things. And I'm sorry, I cut you as you were cut you off as you
no,
were
it's okay.
talking, but it's just, it's like, how can you ever make that person happy? You're really being
No,
exactly who you are. And then they're saying that they're in love with you for that. And then they're mad at you for being exactly who you've always been.
correct. Yes. And then I think for many women, it's important to point out that can be a shift where you come in strong, you come in all these things, but there can be a shift where you become really confused and disoriented from the situation. Like you were put on a pedestal, and now it seems there are all these sometimes very subtle, sometimes so subtle ways that you're being torn down. So then I think confusion and fog, or there are many words to describe it, set in. And what I see often is that people don't realize that that's happened to them. And they can live for years in that state of you're really kind of walking around in survival mode
Oh, yeah.
because you're so disoriented. How do women figure out that they're there? I talk to so many people who don't even know they're in an abusive relationship until they describe it to a professional or a friend and they say, that's not right. So, how does someone get from being this strong pit bull to being confused and not even realizing that the relationship that they're in is toxic?
And there's so many answers to that. I think that it is, I mean, for one, exactly what you were describing. The first time that I realized how bad something was is when I went to speak to at the court. And they were like, tell me some of the things that you experienced. And I just remember the look, like her jaw fell to the ground and she was like, wait, what happened? What? And I was like, well, he's done worse. And she was like, he could have killed you. Like he strangled you. Like he could have killed you much quicker. I never had bruises. I never had broken bones, any of that. So in my mind, because survival makes us like downplay some of the things, I was like, well, he hasn't beaten me, he hasn't done that, but he strangled me, spit on me, like all these other terrible things. And it was like, and then it was always, well, I was mad, or you did this, or you pushed me to it, or I was, drinking, or like whatever. There was always an excuse. And when you love someone, I think it's like, well, let me try to work it through. Let me try to explain it to him so that he can understand that everyone knows that that's wrong. And again, you look at it from later on and you're like, what was I
Yeah.
thinking that like I could explain to him that that's bad. No, once you're out, you get no second chances. But I think when you're in it, and so that bond is where all of this comes in, is that trauma bond to me is equivalent of its addiction to
Mhm.
the relationship to try to make it work. And it is so powerful that it is the same as trying to withdraw from heroin. And
Yep.
and it's not even like I'm not even trying to make it more of what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the smartest, most successful women that I think of this one woman in particular, super like I want to say like the president of a bank, like super woman, and she's driving by this guy's house checking to see if his girlfriend's over, and she's super happy. She's now engaged and like all this whole completely different life. But she was so stuck. She couldn't help herself. She had to keep going back because maybe if I tell him again how he's feeling or how I'm feeling, how he's treating me, maybe this time he'll finally get it and he'll stop doing it because that beginning tends to be so good. You find this person
Yeah.
and like me where it was like, I just always thought that maybe I had too high of expectations. And when I met this person that was checking off some of the boxes and I felt so good when things were good. I wanted to go back to that.
Good feels great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they start
Yeah.
giving you those breadcrumbs. So they give you the little tiny
Yeah.
bits. And then, the times become more and more and the good times become less and less. And it doesn't have to be physically abusive. It could be, emotionally, verbally
Right.
abusive as well. But those things that they say about you become less and less. I mean, my ex, we'd
Yeah.
go out in public and he would tell me that I should stop talking because nobody liked me and nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. And under their breath in your ear while you're out in public and you're like, the first few times you're like, oh, they're just being ridiculous. And after a while, you're like, wait, maybe he's right. Maybe they don't
Right.
like me. Maybe these things. And so again, it's not that one time, it's that frog in the pot that's slowly being boiled over time. If you person said all those nasty things to you the first date, none of us would stay. None of us would put up with
Right.
that.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's the years or it's over the time that these very small tweaks and all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? And why am I fighting for this relationship that is treating me terribly? And when we're talking trauma, withdrawing from trauma bonds, there are people who are suicidal trying to leave these people. As much as they know they're
Absolutely.
terrible, they
Yep.
intellectually know that they're terrible and they know they need to get away. They've also been starting for so long to get that little endorphin push to get
Yep.
all good field chemicals from that little bit of breadcrumbs that they're getting, that they get so used to looking for that it's like they're fiending for it. And they feel like they're not going to survive if they withdraw from it. And just like any drug, you will survive and you will be able to move on from it. You just have to give yourself enough time. Like if you can, the 30 days, like that one
Yeah.
moment at a time, like just you can obsess about wanting to call them, wanting to drive by their house, blah, blah, blah. Your people. And this is something, if
Yeah.
you're currently right now in that situation, I always say, pick your three. Have people that you can have on speed dial for when you're feeling the itch of wanting to reach out to that person you shouldn't. So are they friends? If you've lost your friends, because that happens a lot in these types of relationships, now is an opportunity to go and make new friends, meet some new people. If right now one of us is of your three to reach out to, have one of us be your reach out. But have those people that when you're feeling like I'm going to give in, I need to just have that little call, that little fix of attention from them, even if it's negative. You need to start just getting used to replacing that with calling somebody else, with doing something different. And after a while, and again, it's about 30 days, you're going to start to notice that it doesn't totally
Yeah.
go away, but it does get easier as you allow more time to pass through.
Definitely. And I think that it's important to know, like any addiction, if other things in your life are piling up or are hard, then there is always a temptation to seek out that dopamine hit from the toxic person or the trauma bond person. It is like a craving. It feels like a craving, like something you can't shake. But if you can push through and get to the 30 days, but I've seen a lot of people have like a
Yep.
relapse because something else happens in their life. And it's just like, so for me, it's way worse than sugar craving because sugar's bad, but it's not heroin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the one thing I've experienced pretty severe addiction to. So if I'm off of it for 30 days, I feel great. But if I have one little bit of it, then I'm right back to it, or I used to be when I was struggling with that. It's that same thing. So if you're addicted to anything, the trauma bond is really just like that. So if you get even just a taste of it. And one thing I learned, it's like there can be a mean nice cycle. And the mean can stay the same, but the nice ends up you Well, anything's nice. Anything gives you a dopamine hit. Any text message come in. So you get to the point where you're seeking out just okay responses.
Yeah.
And I think many people don't even realize that that's happening to them. That said, I think a lot of the women that you work with and probably I work with and a lot of people out there are maybe on the other side. They're just on the other side of getting out of this relationship and they're looking again. And there we can talk about like the trust you need, but what are red flags that women like us are most often going to rationalize or miss early on, especially when the chemistry feels really strong and intense?
And be careful of that chemistry. Be careful, because that'll suck you in really fast too. That charm.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that a charming, attractive person is not good, because they are some wonderful, people out there. However, you do have to be careful that if you have not worked on healing the past, again, you're going to bring it into this next one. So I found that even that for me, I had not forgiven myself and done the right healing between major relationships where I was still having this guilt that I hadn't done enough for this past relationship. So when I started seeing red flags in the new one, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just not good at relationships. Maybe he's right. Maybe he knows better than I do. And so
Mhm.
even when he was like, because he knew my past, he knew that I had been in not very healthy relationships. And he would say, well, you haven't been good at relationships. Let me help you. I can show you. Instead of me trusting myself, when again, my gut was telling me those things are not right. But he
Yeah.
very quickly wanted to get married. I'll say he wanted to get married very quickly, but he also wanted to move in very quickly. Huge red
Mhm.
flag,
Yeah.
and also that wanted to move in with me. It was like I had a house. He did not have a house. He had an apartment. Nothing against that, but it was like he wanted to move in with me. He wanted to have things. I mean, even just something as simple as talking about what kind of engagement ring we wanted. I suggested some things and he was completely against it. I wanted to get married in like on a beach somewhere, like at my parents' house in North Carolina. And he one who wanted the big, castle wedding. And it was not an argument like disagreement. It was yelling, screaming, really terrible fight over me trying to bring up my thoughts and feelings. I actually remember probably about a month in to us dating, and we went to out, and someone that I had dated before him came up and said hi to me, and like I gave him a hug and said hi, and then the guy went off. All night long after we got home, there was a huge fight how I wasn't respectful of him and I hadn't introduced him properly, and just on and on and on about this guy that really it was not important to me in my life at all. And he
Yeah.
couldn't let it go. And I should have broke up with him then. So there was all of these things. And even something as little as like your dog doesn't like them. That's like,
Mhm.
people say
That's a
trust the animals.
red flag. Yeah. Yeah.
Trust
Trust
the
the animal.
animals. My sister had a Rottweiler, and the Rottweiler would literally follow him around and growl at him. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't understand. What? The
Wow.
Rottweiler
Wow.
hated him, hated him. And so, and again, these are things that you're like, oh, that's silly. That's just an old story, or
Yeah.
maybe I was respectful with not introducing him because, maybe I was embarrassed. And, all of these things because I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
I think that's what we have to keep in mind. When we start dating again after, we have to have already started to work on trusting ourselves before we can date. Because if we don't, we're going to allow things that we wouldn't allow because we are
Yeah.
trusting someone that shouldn't really be trusted with our life and our decisions. We without sometimes meaning to allow them to make these decisions, and then we feel stuck and then we don't know what to do. And so I think the red flags, there are pink flags, there were red flags, red flags of, again, moving too quickly, trying to get married fast, move in too fast, introduce you to their family too fast, that they don't have any friends. Why don't they have any friends? What's going on with their friendships? Or that people tell you things about their friends. You meet them that you're like, oh, that's weird. Why do other friends have weird stories about them? That's not cool. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
all those little things that were like,
Grandiosity, like needing a castle, like
yes, and the grandiosity, yes, he had to be. And then I realized, well, he just liked to spend money, didn't have it, but liked to spend. It was just all a show. Like it was just all the showman, to be to showy person without actually having any of it to have. Like he had the ability, he didn't. So all this
right.
major debt, but yeah, all to just impressions, what other people thought of them. That was really what was more important than really anything else. And so I think without even saying all the red flags and even pink flags, as I call them, you have to really look at, once you do the work, you start to trust yourself in ways that will see through. Because here's the thing too. When I tell people that are ready to start thinking about dating, they come to me and they're like, I want to date. I'm like, let's do these things first. And then some of those people are like, okay, now I am. Now they actually are. Some people, now they don't want to date at all. So you get to this point. But I say, you're dating educational purposes first.
Collecting
You're
information. That's what my
collecting.
therapist used to say.
Yep.
We're just collecting information.
Yep.
Like,
What do I like? Because we've worked on ourselves. So we're now different than who we
yeah,
were before. And
yeah,
especially if we've been married for a long time, that person that dated before is not the same person that's dating now. So who are you now? What will you allow? What will you not allow? Now you're going out to get education and say, what do I want in my life? I think that's
mhm,
a really major shift, because when you're not feeling good enough about yourself, you're looking at, how can I make someone love me,
right,
as opposed
right.
to, are they good enough for my life? And it's sometimes like, well, I don't want to be conceited. I don't want, this is going to be the most important person. This is the person that could take your last with. Like, isn't it important to be that particular about the person? Are they adding to your life? Do you feel good when you're around them? Do you feel safe? Can those little silly conversations? So you're really looking for who is adding to your life, as opposed to, like, do you feel like that you're being of yourself around them, or more of yourself? And when you've built up this life that you already feel amazing and great, you trust yourself, then you're allowing somebody in that's just kind of like that, cherry on top. Now things are even better than they were before. But if we're coming from a place of, I need a relationship, I'm not good enough if I don't have a relationship, we're going to more easily allow these toxic people into our lives because of the need, as opposed to, this person is good to add into my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And personally, I've found two really important green flags that I think someone who's likely to be a toxic partner are not going to have. And what that one, which is essential for me, is they need to be in therapy or be willing or have done therapy. Like,
Same.
if they're not haven't sought out professional help to work on themselves, because we all need that at some point,
Hmm.
then I'm probably not a good fit for me. Like, I need to know someone is willing to self-reflect and has enough awareness to know that there could be a need for, or there already is a need for,
Yeah.
therapy. I've heard people say it's a red flag, and I'm like, "Oh, no. No, 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 no." Like, you know, that's a big one for me. And then the other is, how does my body feel
Yes.
around the person? And
Yes.
I wanna say, as you mentioned, be careful with the chemistry. I wanna say it is possible to have incredible chemistry with someone and have them literally calm your body when you touch them or when they touch you. You can have both of those things at the same time. My therapist used to say butterflies were a bad sign, and I agree with that. So, I think it's tough for people to discern the difference between butterflies, like great chemistry. I do like the charming, guy. That's how my dad was. That's what I'm attracted to. But I had to recognize the different feelings in my body. And when I met someone, my current boyfriend, where I was like, wow, like I did butterflies. I'm not nervous at all. I'm so excited. The chemistry is incredible. But my whole body relaxes around this person.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest sign. Like, if that ever shifted or changed, that would be like a warning, an alarm system for me. So,
The calmness, I call it calmness of love. When to love being this stressful, overwhelming thing, and you go towards that and you think that's what it is. And again, the butterflies, like you said, the calmness is really what it should be. There should be a calmness, a freeing, easy feeling. You shouldn't have to fight. You shouldn't be wondering if they're going to call you. What's, any of those things. It should just be, I'm good. I feel calm. I feel empowered. I feel more of myself when I'm
Yeah.
with them, not less of myself.
Yes. What was the shift? Was there an internal shift for you that allowed things to start improving or maybe take unraveling and then rebuilding? Like what happened in you that allowed you to get where you are now?
It was actually a pretty profound moment. So I'm a certified crisis counselor. I've helped people for a really long time in my life. And, I divorced. Never going to do that again. And I ended up in a relationship with a guy who made me feel really good. The chemistry was amazing. The sex was amazing. It was all this great stuff. But he would leave and I would feel empty. I would feel terrible.
Mm.
And he ended up ghosting me and I unraveled. I mean, more than I can ever. It was the dark night of the soul. It was literally, and so ghosted me. I got a blood clot. My grandmother passed away. I got pink eye. I twisted my ankle. And this is all in 6 weeks. Like, I'm not even
Oh,
joking.
wow.
It was like
Wow.
one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I ended up in the emergency room because I had sprained my ankle. And kind of funny because I sprained my ankle at work and my emergency contact was my ex. So PS, change the emergency contact. But I'm sitting there in the emergency room after they had just done an x-ray. And the doctor comes out and says, well, you severely sprained your ankle. You're going to have to stay off your foot. And I was like, of course, like, am I getting pumped? It's like everything that's going wrong. And I remember I start laugh crying at that moment. And my ex-husband looked at me really strange and the doctor looked at me really strange. But I literally heard a voice that said to me, you need to be your own knight in shining armor. You have to stop waiting for someone to come and save you, and you have to save yourself. And that whole phrase, it all just popped into my head. And I was like, wait a minute. I have been trying to do this by myself. And it's not like I had never spoken to a therapist. I just really hadn't let it all go.
Yeah.
All of this is happening because I'm holding on so tightly to being right and figuring it out. And I don't know what I'm doing. And I need someone who knows better than me to fix it. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to never do this again. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, what do I have to do? I help everybody. How am I going to take care and help myself? So I jumped into therapy. I got a coach. I started going in the direction of not people pleasing so much. I'm going to do the
Mhm.
things that I enjoy doing. I'm going to find out who I am as a single person. I'm not going to look for another relationship this time. I'm just going to be free and have fun. And things just started, I made that decision and things just started falling into place. I'm in a depression. The depression finally broke. I finally could breathe again. I was, all of these things sort of changing positively for me because I had made that decision. And I said, what's great as things started to really move and I got to this freed place. And I was like, wow, I never know that life could be this way. I had just gotten so used to it. It was like this. It's like when you have glasses and everything's kind of gray and kind of fuzzy. And then you get a new pair and you're like, oh, holy crap, this is what the world looks like? I had no
Right.
idea that this is what I was missing. What was I doing? What was going on? Who was I? And I think that, and again, that was when I was like, I have to help other people because I
Yes.
didn't even know how bad things had got until they were better. And then when they got really good, I was like, oh, it's a whole, what is it? In Aladdin, a whole new world. Oh, it's a whole new world. It's a whole
Yeah.
different place. I got to let
Yeah.
everybody know that they can have this too. It's not impossible.
Right.
I'm not a guru. If I can do it, who was terrible, you can do it too. And so,
Yeah.
I think it was a profound time. It was awful going through it, but I
Yeah.
don't regret it. I'm glad I learned the lesson because the universe was hitting me in the head saying, I'm trying to tell you something. And I was like, I don't want to listen. I want to keep doing what I'm doing,
Right. It's
what I'm used to.
comfortable
Yeah.
to. Yeah. We can get comfortable in a really bad place.
Yeah.
But I think so many people have never experienced the other side.
Yeah.
Like they've lived all their whole life in terrible relationships. So when they start loving themselves and trusting themselves, all of a sudden, like you said, things start falling into place and you're like, "Oh my God, like, why didn't I do this sooner? This is amazing. I had no idea it could be like this."
Then you also have to be careful because some of us will self-sabotage because I don't deserve good. And so
Right,
then we'll do something, the other
right.
shoe's gonna drop. It can't be this
Yeah,
good. Something else
yeah.
is gonna happen. So that's really why having the right team is
Mhm.
so important. So we don't do that. Or when we do, because we will, we that can remind us like, hey, this is you're doing this. Like, try XYZ instead. Let's refocus. Let's take a step backwards in order
Yeah.
for us to move forward.
Yeah, and I think I'm wanting to how you're helping people, but I think that a really important thing for people to understand is sometimes the best people, members, really do need to have gone through what they're experiencing. I remember when at one point I was working through a trauma bond, and my therapist said, she explained the chemical reactions that were happening, and she used the word craving for the first time. And I remember thinking, if I had never experienced this, I would never understand it. I could never put myself, because intellectually it makes no sense,
Yep.
like none. And there were people in my life who were trying to support me who had never gone through it. And it was really terrible for them as people who loved me. Like they couldn't support me. And as I started to trust myself, I had gotten into the habit. I think this is also common, even though I was extremely capable, smart, law degree, all these things. I had really gotten into the habit of asking for approval or asking other people's opinions for everything because I had completely lost trust in myself. So when I started getting it back, doing lots of therapy and coaching and doing my work, some people, they didn't trust me and they were used to me asking their permission or asking their opinion. So can you talk about that, like how you build your trust in yourself and how sometimes there are people in your group that you have to step away from
That happens a lot.
because you've taught them not to trust you, or you've taught them that you don't trust yourself and they don't understand that you're transitioning, you're going through this evolution. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, and that you're not letting them walk all over you anymore, right? I
I
mean, a lot of those relationships were built on you just saying yes to things because you were people pleasing. I think it is interesting. It's about making changes because we're afraid of losing friends and family, and sometimes that does happen. Like I get that, but you also have to look at which one of those were actually toxic to begin with. Which were the ones that helped you stay stuck? Which are the
yeah.
ones that really supported you in becoming the best version of you? I mean, what you said earlier about, friends and family, they mean well, they want to say the right things, but they're not trained in how to help you.
Mhm.
This is not
Right.
their thing. So you can go vent to them and they're going to say, well, maybe you should be over it by now. Or,
Yeah.
why are you putting up with this? Or whatever it is that they're saying. But that just makes we don't want to talk to them now. Or we get
Right.
more
We feel worse.
embarrassed. Yeah, we feel worse. So
Right.
now we're
More
even more
shame.
embarrassed. Exactly. And so then we pull ourselves out. So a big thing that happens, and this is part of what we do actually is creating those new friendships, because the version of you that is being created means that it's like that butterfly, and you've
Mhm.
got to get kind of mushy and turn it as goop before you can turn into this beautiful butterfly. And what that means is that we go through a period where the people that were in our lives before are not matching up to who we are becoming, because those people will try to pull us back. They want you to be the version of you that they've always known, and they're not comfortable with this new version of you. So it doesn't mean get rid of all of your friends. You can still have them, but we want you to
Right.
focus on creating those new friendships. So part of like going through and looking at what are the things that I've always wanted to do that I've maybe put off. And so like, I have people, they're doing pottery classes now. I did Reiki. That was something that I was really interested in. It really got me more connected to my spiritual self. And, some people travel, some people, And you can do all these different things. And I always say, go and you're not going and meeting singles groups. I mean, you could, but go
Right.
and do like the activities that you want to do just to make friends. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be looking for a relationship, just to make new friends. You go to the gym, you see the same people all the time. We'll talk to those people. You're always in the same aerobics class. Go talk to those people. Don't be afraid to be the one to go reach out to those people, because now you have your aerobic people that you're friends with. Now you have the people that like to go hiking. Now you have the people that like to do. So you have all these different outlets of different people that know the version of you now
Right.
as opposed to the version of you that was there before. And also too, I mean, sometimes too, it's this feeling of who you were. We should be
Yeah.
proud of ourselves, but there also is like, I don't want people to know who I was or how I was before in this other relationship. So now it's blank slate. You get to start
Yes.
completely new with relationships. And so all of that I think is so key in being able to do that. And it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard,
It's
but
really
but
hard.
I get enough. Is it kind of works in two different ways. Is you're going out and doing things that you love, so you get to find out, who am I now that I am free? Do I really like football, or did I really just like it
Right.
because my ex liked it? Those kind of things. But also too, you're finding things that people that you enjoy, so that you are building up this life that when and if you are ready to date again, you are not coming from a mindset of, not having enough. You're an
Right.
abundance mindset, because I already have the friends. I already have the people.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for someone that's going to be my all, because that's another issue. And I know I'm kind of going a little bit off topic here, but one
Yeah.
of the things too is our partner should not be our everything. So,
Right.
in that, like, I like to use the hiking example. I love hiking and being outdoors. My husband doesn't. Well, I have my hiking people that I go outdoors with and go do those things. So,
Yes.
you can be resentful that you're not doing the things you want to do with your partner, but why not just have the people that you do those things with? And so I think that rebuilding is really being able to stand up on your own and say, like, I'm going to maybe spend less time with these people. These are the ones I'm going to spend more time. I always say, look, give yourself kind of like a 1 through 5. How do I feel when I'm done spending time with these people? You want to
That's a great.
spend more time with the 5s
Right.
and the 4s,
Yep.
and less time with the 1s. And so if every time you feel drained and overwhelmed and you feel kind of like angry or at the world, are those the people that you want to hang out with? Or do you want to fill, the people that fill up your cup, that you can really be yourself with, say whatever, ridiculous things. I always say, let your weirdo flag fly. Like, hey, this is me. And if you don't like it,
Right.
that's okay. I'm not meant
Yeah.
for everyone to like me. But if you let your weirdo flag fly, people will be attracted to you, that person that's the real genuine you. And then you'll
Right.
have even better friends, and
Yeah.
support than you had before.
Yeah. I love that. Let your weirdo flag. That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Because you want to be magnetic and attractive to the people who are your people.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to attract the people who aren't.
No.
So, yeah, let it all
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
I
We try
love
to fit
that.
into this box and we're like, why do I feel like I can't talk to anybody? Well, we're surrounding ourselves with people that we're not even ourselves with. So of course.
Right. 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 We do. And this podcast is all about pulling threads is unprogramming and getting outside of all of the boxes, because I feel like we put ourselves in many different boxes depending on who we're with. And I used to shapeshift depending on who I was with. And I do not do that anymore. That was exhausting. It was
Yes.
exhausting.
Yes.
I want an opportunity to talk about what it was like when you met your husband. And I have clients, people that I work with who meet someone who's great, who is not toxic. And there is something I think really unexpected that happens for them where they either want to sabotage or they want to run or they feel really unsafe, even though this is a safe person. And there's a working through that you have to go through. Did you experience any of that when you met your husband?
I did not, for a good reason. I think that when you, again, like when you've done the work, and I'm saying like the work is like A, B, and then it's the end. There's work that's
Yeah.
always happening, right? So
Right.
there's
And then the relationship shows you all the things that you haven't
exactly.
covered
There's
yet.
things where you're like, I got it. And then you're like, just kidding. There's some things that I can also really
Right.
dive
Because there's
into.
some things that have to be really healed in a relationship.
And the
And
real,
that's a
and the
whole
healing
nother,
is,
another.
Exactly. So sometimes the healing is during the relationship too. But I think when you do come from that place of, you asked me where, well, they did sabotage, whatever. When it goes to what we said before, when you are used to love being this anxiety thing, that when, and I have this a lot with clients, that safe and comfortable calmness love feels boring.
Right.
So I want to go
Right.
back to that adrenaline of, are they going to call me? Or, are they going to be mad at me? And again, it's a subconscious thing. So I
Hmm.
think we really have to look at our subconscious. And so that actually one of the things we do with our clients is we use something called Psyche to help with the subconscious beliefs about what's possible. So it really changes those ideas. It's isn't as family as EMDR, but it
Yeah.
tends to work really fast where those beliefs that we have about, is it possible for me to create something different? Am I too old? Or all the good ones taken? If we have those subconscious beliefs playing in our mind, or, this is boring, whatever those things are going to happen. It's like, don't hit that tree. You're going to hit the tree. Don't see a yellow car. You're going to see yellow cars. I mean, all the things
Right.
that we're focusing on is what's going to happen. So when you retrain your subconscious to not be in a place of that fight or flight, to understand that calmness is safe, calmness is good, then we start attracting those types of people more into our lives. And so when I was going through my process, it was, I don't want to be around people that give me anxiety and stress. And so
Hmm.
I like, were my friendships. Those became my friendships. So I practiced those relationships in friendships. And then so when I did start dating again, it was, if someone gives me this, I need to call or I need to show or I need to prove, I didn't go on a second date. It
Yeah.
wasn't of interest to me. I needed for that calmness. But that is a big issue that a lot of people will come to us with, is
Oh,
that
I'm sure.
sabotaging because it's not exciting enough.
Well, it's not exciting enough, but then I also see there it's too good to be this must be too good to be
Yes.
true. If
Yes.
there's an avoidant attachment, a lot of times, I think the minute it starts feeling safe and secure and you start settling in or there are feelings, then it's like, no, like it can't be. It's too good to be true. It's going to go away. If it goes away, that's going to hurt. I don't want to be hurt. So all these, defense mechanisms start kicking in and I do a lot of parts work. So the parts are like, are we really safe? I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't experienced safe before. How is this possible? So yeah, I think it comes a bunch of different ways,
But
but
I thought that safeness, I think when, again, when you've now become used to things being so, again, is the other shoe going to drop? Is this really this good? I think that that's a question that we should be asking ourselves, because we have
Mhm.
been duped before and we did
Right.
think that someone was good and then they ended up not being good. So that's why we're, paying attention and we're allowing. And I think that was something that when you get to a point, and this has been my personal experience and my experience with clients, is that I don't need to be in a relationship. So you really are being so genuinely yourself that you are allowing a friendship to happen before. And I'm
Right.
not saying the intimacy can't happen before. I don't care about it. That's important, obviously, but I'm not talking about that. But really that deep friendship where when I first started dating my husband, I was like, I actually don't care. I actually almost broke up with him a few times because I don't care if he doesn't want to be with me or he doesn't like who I am or I don't like his, I will get him. I will not continue a relationship with him. So
Yes.
I'm going to just keep being me, really genuinely me, and see how this goes. And if I don't like the things he's saying, because this isn't someone that I continue to feel safe with, then it's fine. I'm going to end the relationship. And so I think that when you allow, the more we spent time and the more he showed that I got to his apartment and he had a bookshelf of all the books that I had on my bookshelf. And I was like, ooh, that's ooh,
Oh,
hot. And they were all
that
self-help books. I was like, oh, it's so
you're
attractive.
like, "Oh,
Yes. So
yay."
like, oh, it's so cute. And then, and all these things. And it was like, we would go and do things and all the things I had thought of what I was looking for, he was doing them without me saying that those were things I was looking for. And I'll add
Yeah.
that too, is that, and after we started to be more serious, we had both created lists of what we wanted in a relationship, in a person. And we matched them up and we were both literally looking for each other without realizing it.
Were you looking for the same thing or were you looking for him and he was looking for you?
Yes. He for me, I was looking for him. And I mean, it got really to the point of when I got so specific, I want 6'3". It's okay. And I really made one shift. Like I wanted him to be a musician. I didn't want him to been married before. I didn't want him to have kids, which was weird because I was 37 at the time. So that was like, that probably won't happen. But again, I'm not settling. I don't want
Yeah.
someone who has these
Yeah.
things. And so, I was like, he's 6'3". It's okay if he's bald. And before that, I had the hair, all these different things. And
Yeah.
once I said it's okay, he's bald. And if you're just listening, my husband is behind me in my picture, and he is
Uh-huh.
bald.
Yeah.
And so, but before that, but I had such clarity, the spirituality, the being able to take him places and not have to be attached at the hip, and being interested in helping people and having a business. I mean, literally, it was like check after check after check. And,
Wow.
so again, friendship blossomed that showed me who he was without pretense. Like neither one of us were pretending to be anything else. And I think that kind of takes away some of that fear. You don't need the relationship. You're looking to
Right.
see like the education. How is this working out? Is this really who I want? And then it's like that way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. My boyfriend and I also made lists within a week of one another because our lists were dated. And we met 3 weeks later. And I think we were each missing like one thing from the other person's list. But again, we were very clear. We were both definitely really far along on, you can call it a healing journey, therapy, like whatever. And the timing was right and everything matched up. So that worked out great. He also is bald, just by
There you go. There you go.
I don't think I put hair on I didn't put anything related to hair. So I do in my therapy practice, I do EMDR, but I actually don't know a lot about Psyche, and I'm very, very interested. Can you use neuroscience, trauma-informed work. Talk about, because I think a lot of people know a little bit about EMDR. Like, let's talk a little bit about, in this instance, I guess, the difference between it and EMDR. You don't have to go into super detail on that, but why subconscious reprogramming in general is so critical for relationship healing.
So for the expertise, all my husband in that. He is advanced facilitator, all that. So, and he could go on forever because he gets so
Okay.
excited talking about it because it really is so life-changing. But what I can tell you from the layman perspective and having seen it work so effectively for so long is the reason why you need that shift in the subconscious is because if you don't change that underlying, you're not going to see what needs to be worked on. You're not going to understand. And so, like I always say, like Psyche tends to be like you're walking around in a lake and you're kicking up all of this soot and you try to look down and you can't see your feet, that they're not there. And then all of a sudden, like everything calms and you look down, your feet are right there. There's the clarity.
Yes.
You can see literally clearly all the way through. Well, before you do that work, all this soot kicked up. Everything is dirty. It's hard to see what really needs to be done. You don't even know what needs to be done because you have all of these subconscious beliefs that you've been told from maybe since you were 2 of how women are supposed to be, how relationships are supposed to be. All of this work that's literally baggage that you're carrying with you that you don't want to. But when you do these practices, and whether it's Psyche or EMDR or NLP, I mean, they're in that family, right?
Yep.
It allows you to unpack that baggage that you don't even know you're carrying so that you can
Yes.
move on and work on the important stuff. And so if you
Yeah.
change the belief system to, I am not worthy, to, I am worthy of beautiful, amazing things. I am worthy of a relationship that makes me feel whole and seen, and you change that belief. It's literally like changing a Word document where now
Yep.
you feel that way. Now it's no longer I have to work so hard to make these changes in myself. Now that's just now your new normal of how you feel. It makes it, we call it the special sauce because it makes healing work so much more quickly. Where some people, I mean, I had
Right.
someone that came to, she's like, 25 years I've been working on this and I never right. And I had one session and I feel this much better. You're like, how is
Right.
that possible? And it's again, because they weren't looking at the subconscious. They were talking about it. And not
Right.
that saying the talking is wonderful, but it's like multifaceted. So you
Hmm.
change the subconscious belief systems about what's keeping you stuck. And then you work through creating new patterns So you've now up leveled because now you already feel better. You see the world from a different perspective. Now you're working through patterns. You're talking about months of work instead of years and years of work. So it really changes the time frame if you look at that subconscious. Your nervous system is so stuck in fight or flight because it's been trapped for so long that it needs to calm down and feel safe for you to even be able to do the work that you need to do. You can't do the work when you're stuck in fight or flight. And so that part has to be taken care of in order for you to move on.
Absolutely. And what you said, it's so important for people to understand. Like, we don't really know, unless we've done a lot of work, what our subconscious is telling us. And the programming, like I talk about programming all the time, and unprogramming, unlearning, it's our fault. And it's really not anyone's fault because it's coming from community, religion, society, school. We are literally, as soon as we go into school, we're taught to be different than the way we're actually wired to be. So everything kind of goes against our natural way of being. And and then we have other things like religion that puts shame on, some religions put shame on us, some don't. And then our families. And I always tell people your parents were doing the best that they could,
Yep.
right? Like, it's much easier to walk through life believing, like Maya Angelou says, like, just walk through life believing that everyone is doing their best. And that's easy, right? Then you don't have to walk around being mad at everybody for everything they do. But it doesn't mean that they didn't do things that created these negative beliefs about yourself in your subconscious that you don't even realize are there. And so many times when we're going from toxic relationship to toxic relationship, it's something in our subconscious is telling us we're not enough, we're not worthy, we're unlovable. So I'm sure you know enough about the psyche. Like, do people have to return to those original things that have happened in order to do that kind of subconscious work? Like an
No.
EMDR, you try to get people to think of the first time they ever felt a certain way. Is that how it works, or is it different than that?
Great thing with Site K is that you don't have to go back to that traumatic event or, the events that created this thought process in your mind. All
Yeah.
you have to do is be able to know what you would like to, how you would like to feel. And then we can help you get to that place. So it doesn't have to be like, we've been doing this long enough where we've heard stories that are horrific. And you say to yourself, wow, like I can't even believe this person got to this point in their life having experienced the abuse, trauma, and atrocities that some people deal with, and still how kind they were.
Yeah.
So it's awful. Then, we had I one woman where she, I wouldn't go into the detail and also it was just so horrific. But I just remember she had a session of Psych K and she just talked about what she wanted to feel, how she wanted her life to be. And she was in her 60s. And she said, she her first time she had it, she cried for 2 weeks. And she's like, I haven't cried in 30 years. I was trained not to cry. I couldn't allow those feelings out. So as much as it was, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, it was 30 years worth of crying and actually 60 years worth of crying because she had dealt with it from a small child. And so it was all these years worth of emotions that were just pouring out. And then, I think it was her second session. She's like, I'm out there hugging a tree. She's like, I don't know why. I just felt like I had to hug a tree. I don't know what it was. She said, but the
Wow.
most profound thing was that her young grandchild came up to her and said, I just want to give you a hug because I want to feel some of your energy. I want to feel you. And she was like, well, what do you mean? Well, Grandma, you've been so angry. And she's like, I didn't even realize I was. And she was
Yeah.
snapping at him without even realizing that she was snapping at him. And so all that release of emotion, again, didn't have to relive all the horrific experiences. It was, what do I want to feel instead? And I don't remember what her phrase was that she wanted, because that's what it's basically like a resetting to this phrase that you're looking
Yeah.
to reset to. And so She just wanted to be free. She wanted to have freedom. And then whatever that experience was for her was to be able to be free to be herself. And I mean, the life that happened from that was unbelievable, and
Right.
we've known now long enough that other things came up in her life and she didn't have the same experience working through some life's difficulties
Right.
because she had already done some of that subconscious work where she was already
Yeah.
coming from a more elevated place.
Yeah. Yeah, you really show up differently. My work involved a lot of EMDR, a lot of mindfulness-based stress reduction, but like you said, it's the subconscious work that was really impactful. I did a little hypnosis, and I did a lot of spiritual meditation work that also tapped into subconscious. And my kids still say things like, "Remember when you used to yell?" And it's not that I'm not a perfect parent. Like, I still raise my voice sometimes, but my whole energy, my whole being was different, right? Because I was walking around in survival mode for a long time. And so whenever they say it, we laugh, but inside, I think, number one, thank God that I'm here and not there still. And when I hear other people going through all the terrible things people are dealing with, I just wish there was a way to bottle up a little bit of what it feels like to be on this side of it.
Yes.
So they could get a taste of it, and then they'll be willing to do the work, right? Like, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's you've got to be dedicated to the process getting to the other side.
Mhm.
But when you do, I always say it's like a utopia. Like, there was a moment where all of a sudden it was like I walked through a cave or through a door, and I came out on the other side
Yeah.
to this beautiful, incredible world. And until you've experienced it, I think it's really hard to believe. I don't know if 35-year-old Leslie would believe the life I'm living now and how I'm living it and how
Say
I feel.
35-year-old me would have been like, "What?
That was
That's
one of the
possible?"
questions I wanted to ask you. I know we're gonna wrap up, but if you could speak to your younger self, like, deep in the cycle, what would you tell her?
That it is possible to change. You do deserve more than what you've been accepting. And there are people out there that will love you for who you are. You don't have to pretend to be something else. You don't have to fit into everybody else's box. You don't have to make everybody else happy. It's okay to focus on you. It's okay to be you and make yourself just yourself happy. I think we go much into this, what am I supposed to do? I by a age, you have to be married and have kids and do this. And I was so stuck in this, what am I supposed to do? And the reality is there's no supposed to. There's all those rules that we told ourselves we had to do. None of it's real. So stop doing that to yourself and start going towards what makes you happy. Because if we only live one life, why not make it the best one? Because when you are on your deathbed, you're going to look back and you're going to either look back and say, wow, that was an awesome ride. Or you're going to say, damn it, I wish I would have done something different. And I will tell you that you want to go and say, man, that was amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And step toward happiness or joy helps you continue on the journey that you need to go through and
Yeah.
motivates you to get to the other side.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share with listeners like how you're showing in a bunch of different ways. You also have a podcast, you have a website, you offer a few programs, so does your husband. Can you talk just a little bit about if someone wanted to work with you, what that would look like or where they can find you online?
So I would definitely recommend, I mean, we've been talking about this pretty much the whole time. We have the toxic pattern decoder. It's
Mhm.
free. Go and check out where you are. Are you the rescuer? Are you the fixer? Like what are you in that toxic pattern? And once you can actually look at where you're at, that's one step of knowing like, oh, I'm here. Now what's the next step I need to take? So definitely, go ahead and download the toxic pattern decoder. Beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links has that free toxic pattern decoder. We also have a 6-week program, the program. So it's for, you're looking for that support. And what's kind of cool is that we got a combination. So when you do the 6-week program, you're going to have weekly sessions with me. You're going to have sessions with David for that subconscious work. So those are the individual. And then you're going to be with other people that are also going through something similar. They're also on that healing journey. And then you're having curriculum that you can kind of go through that just adds to the work you're doing. And so whether you're doing one-on-one sessions, you're doing group sessions or long-term sessions. I mean, we have some clients that come to us for the 6 weeks and they're like, I just want a monthly to stick with you for a while because there's a lot of changes I want to make. Wherever you're at, we can always come up with a solution for you. But I would say start with the first thing. Start with one step. And again, if anything resonated for you today, even just a little bit, check it out. See what it is. There's something in your soul telling you that there is more. So stop saying that you're going to for another day or that perfect opportunity or till that moment is right, because it's never going to be the exact right moment. The right moment is now to start creating that life that you dreamed of, because it's not too much to ask for having a beautiful, amazing life. In fact, that's what Leslie, I can speak for you too. We all want you to have that beautiful, amazing life. So stop selling yourself short. Go ahead and check the different, things that I have. Get someone, if I'm not the perfect fit, find someone that is. But you can follow me under Stephanie McPhail. You can find me under Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, or you can find me under Toxic Love Transformation, literally on every social media, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the different social medias. Go look for me, grab some resources. I have tons of stuff out there, and just start today. Make that one step to make yourself a priority.
I love that. And all of your contact information will be in the show notes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. This conversation is not about blame or labels. It's about awareness, compassion, and possibility. And for anyone who's listening who isn't ready to leave their toxic relationship or doesn't want to, or maybe because of some situation, they never plan to, you can still do this work and you can still increase your happiness and your joy and live more authentically and do that unprogramming if that's your situation. I think a common mistake is that people think they've got to leave before they start doing the work. And I would say from my experience, doing the work got me through a lot.
Yeah.
And helped me make calmer, more aware decisions. So for anyone who is really, really, really make a first step, this is just a first step for you. And it doesn't mean you have to do anything else. It's just a step forward. So, so grateful your voice and the stories and your sharing, Stephanie. It's been incredible. Again, if something in today's episode resonated, if you felt seen, unsettled, or gently cracked open, I want you to know nothing is wrong with you. These patterns make sense. And when we understand our nervous systems, trauma bonding, and the stories that we learned about love, they make even more sense. So Stephanie's work is really powerful, and it's such a huge reminder that healing doesn't require really fixing ourselves. It requires learning to listen differently and rewire and trust. All right. So you can find Stephanie and learn about her work at Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. And I'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you so, so much for being here, Stephanie. I appreciate you so much and your work.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for allowing this platform to have people be heard.
Thank you.